All right, everyone. Today we have Alexa, is it?
Yes.
Awesome. I met her through Instagram. I think I posted something and then either I commented or you commented on it. And I was like, okay. Then we started like bouncing ideas here and there about like, I guess, relationships and stuff like that. And then I like some of the materials that you post. They're very informative and very knowledgeable. And I figured, all right, might as well just get her on and kind of see what she does as a coach. And this way I can give you an idea of what I do when it comes to me coaching my clients, and also love to hear your perspective as well of how you handle coaching. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that brief introduction. For me, I've been in the exercise science space since I was about 16. My mom actually was a bodybuilder. She was a very large bodybuilder, and she would, drive me to the gym at like 5 in the morning to a Planet Fitness. So I was, in the lifestyle. She'd give me your protein shakes and all that fun stuff. And she went back to college to get her exercise science degree. So I would just kind of go downstairs at night and read, all of the things about like movement patterns and what these things are supposed to look like and all of the forms and just the basic PT stuff. And honestly was hooked. For me, when I started, I was 100 pounds at 5'9", and now I'm 140. So I have this picture of like my jeans fitting over my bicep now because I was like that small. So I also compete in bikini, which I would like to be big enough to compete somewhere else. Hopefully, like by like 2045, that'll be a thing. But for now, I'm bikini. Education wise, I have gone through a bunch of different certs, associates in exercise science, and then my bachelor's in human biology, because when I graduated from exercise science, I realized I didn't know enough about actual science. So figured I should know things like biochemistry and orgochem and biostats, all of those fun things. And now I am in the graduate program at USF for exercise science under Dr. Campbell.
Impressive. Very
Well,
impressive.
thank you.
Yeah, that's
I like
also,
school. I'm one of those nerds that likes school a lot. So
I can tell.
See, I was the nerd. I was the nerd that didn't like school, but really
Mm.
was like always curious with. I've studied like all the different types of fields, and it's just curious. It's like, what does this do? Then it's like the rabbit hole of information. And along the way, you hit something, you're like, oh, what's this over here? And then you're like, wait, what the hell is this over here? And that's
Yeah,
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 sometimes
absolutely.
like, this isn't really much for science. Like, I need to go to biology now. Like, I need to learn more. So yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it does. And along those same lines now too is I really liked school because I got to hear like the professor's perspective on things. And I was kind of on the fence about if I wanted to go back to my master's degree because we kind of have that now with things like podcasts and all of videos and lots of really good coaches spilling what they're doing. So I can just kind of get that and have that curious, like they say something and then I have an idea of like, oh, like this sounds like something I want to dive into more, and you can go from there. But the really interesting thing about USF is that they do a lot of research in our specific niche market because not a lot of researchers really care about fit people who want to get fitter, especially when there's things like cancer and other things that are actually hurting people. So it's definitely a niche market, and that's one of the ways that I would like to help move the industry forward is by publishing more of this research that the evidence-based community likes so much.
Yes.
So it's interesting that you brought that up, that more universities now, especially the ones that you're going to, are actually focusing more on the fitness aspect, the whole bodybuilding aspect, the little details that most people never even paid attention to before. What did you think drove that shift from like just basically just doing research about basically just like random things, but now it's more about fitness related, bodybuilding related, especially when you talk about, was it berberin or something like that? Yeah, so that was like those things weren't like back in the day. Nobody even cared about them really.
Yeah. I think as far as driving that shift, so I think when, especially with social media, when you see like, there are trends, right? Like there are definitely trends that people like to talk about things, like 5, 6 years ago, it was IIFYM was the most important thing that you could talk about. Like everyone was talking about it.
Yeah.
And, that kind of burnt out. And now, now we're kind of back to the like, okay, like make your own meal plans. Like don't be an ass with your, with your diet. And now it's like, oh, like those things that you did 6 years ago, like those cause now all of these hormonal issues. So now everyone loves to talk about hormones. And obviously blood glucose can play a role in all those things too. And we're talking about berberine. So I think it kind of came from all of the mistakes that have previously been made by other coaches and you know, other people just not knowing, because we are a niche market, bodybuilders. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of published research about those things. And you know, when you talk about things like PEDs and you know, estrogen dominance, pregnenolone, steal, all of those things, like you have to dive really, really deep into that. Like you usually just can't pull up an article or pull up a bodybuilding.com thing and just know what you're going to say. Like you have to understand physics and all of those other things that it takes a lot more to get there. So I think as the market needs more of these things, it will just pop up. So I don't, you know, we're probably going to be talking about PEDs for a very long time, given the time that we're in right now.
Definitely would agree. And it is funny, like I think what does drive that was social media, because you look back at like, you know, IFYM, like if it fits your macros, what people don't understand is like during the 90s when that was introduced, like back in the day, it was, you know, chicken, broccoli, rice, or asparagus and fish. And then everyone's like, well, I can be flexible with my nutrition and I'll have like steak and this. And everyone's like, oh, then everyone's like, one person did if it fits your macros, and it's like a bodybuilder who can handle like some Oreos or Pop-Tarts or ice cream. Like the average person, like, well, I can do that too. It's like, no, you don't have enough lean muscle tissue for that. And then it just, everyone on social media spit out this. It was some fitness influencer spitting it out, and that's always a thing. But it is funny, like the idea of like niche with social media 100% is driving, I think, that with, because you can take all this evidence you want, and it's like, yeah, that's cool for an average person, but fitness people aren't your average person. Like you can't apply the same evidence base to someone who's like this, you know.
Yeah.
Who gets 2 hours of REM and 4 hours of sleep? Makes no sense.
And especially like in that train of thought too, when you have someone that's an average person, like there's a lot of really easy things that you can switch right off the bat to. So, you know, like the low hanging fruit is what people usually call that. So when you get to, you know, be an IFBB pro, like you kind of, you assume that all of the low hanging fruit has been taken. So
yeah, you got past the low hanging fruit. Now you have to climb up in the tree and get like the fruit
yeah.
that's still like, you know, you have to wait for it to ripen up, you know.
Exactly. So it's definitely, there's a lot of multifaceted aspects to it. And with social media, it's, you know, people want to say something that grabs people's attention, and they might have the best interest in mind. Like I would like to think that people don't want to maliciously give out poor information, but you know, it's so hard to just blanket statement say this is what you need to do, because I don't know you. I have no idea who you are. I don't know who you are reading this. All I can do is see trends based off what my clients do, and then try to, you know, make those blanket statements and say, hey, if you are in a similar situation and you've already tried X, Y, and Z, then perhaps this is something that you could look into for yourself.
Agreed.
Very good point. I think went to school for like exercise science and everything, just kind of like went through, it was like a domino effect. How did you start off with coaching?
Honestly, coaching has kind of been almost like a sore subject for me. I was one of those people that was really, really bad at selling things. Like I could not sell water to a fish. Like it just, or wait, that makes sense. Sure. I can't sell things. So for me, it was like, hey, like I have knowledge, I could probably help you. And then there are other people that are, you know, doing the big promise thing, like I'm going to make you lose 10 pounds in 3 days, and the magazine stuff. And I'm like, yeah. I don't know how I'm supposed to compete with that. So, you know, I tried to do the coaching thing, you know, just like doing it for free for friends, family, anyone who wanted to, and, you know, got people some decent results. We made some decent headway. And then at some point I was like, this isn't working. I need to go a different route. And briefly was like, okay, I'm going to go into pharmaceuticals and all of that stuff. And then basically woke up one day and I'm like, I don't want to do this at all. So basically woke up that day and applied to grad school and then restarted my business. And it's been about 5 months of that now. And I'm really loving it. I'm really glad that I decided to go back in with a different mindset, because that really is what made the biggest difference for sure.
Interesting. So from the first time you started till that 5 months you just recently got back into it, what's the difference?
I think, you know, I kind of in the past definitely played one of those roles that I wanted to be in a certain camp, because it made it really easy, right? Like it made it easy to post content, made it easy to just answer blanket questions, and that's just pure laziness at that point. But it was more trying to be perceived in a certain way. Now it's not about me, it's not about how I feel, it's more about what my clients need from me, and whatever that looks like, that's what we're going to do. So there's obviously these camps, and they're all separate, evidence-based, and then like the functional health.
Science, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, all of those. And like, I don't see myself in any of those spots, because the person in front of me, like, we're just going to make a plan, and whatever works for them is what we're going to do. And if it doesn't align with something that I might have thought would work for that person first, then great, because we're still getting that person results, and that's all that really matters. I have no ego, no no intention behind it, other than just doing the best by my clients. So that was a huge shift for me.
That's an interesting piece that I think both coaches from the evidence base, the anecdotal base, or the bro science, or whatever kind of base they come from, they don't tend to realize that. They think that just because they, like, for, let's say, an IPV pro, for example, they think that just because they apply the exact same concept to themselves, that it's going to be applied to their clients. And it's the same thing for evidence-based individuals. They think, oh, this study says this, the study says that, so whatever this study says, I can apply it to that exact same person. I mean, you're going to get a bit of an anomaly of people that have like a different reaction to certain things you give them, that it's not always best to go like the science route. It's not always best to go like the bro science route. I think that's one thing that a lot of coaches don't tend to think about, is that you have to actually combine both of them, or everything together, and you have to make it be specific towards your particular client to help create that positive outcome result. So that's interesting.
The best route is the one that drives results that they can adhere to. It's literally it.
Period. Yeah, absolutely. One of the quotes that I really like is like, you can know all the science that you want, but I know the man in front of me. And that's really all that matters. Because again, like, if someone, it's a combination of what that person could do and what that person would actually do. And that's a lot of like, that's more of the mindset kind of things that I like to really, really focus on with my clients. Just finding what they, not just like saying, okay, this is what you need to do, and this is, the only way that we're going to go about this. It's okay, like, where are you currently? What are you willing to do? And like, what is it actually feasible for you to do that thing?
Mm-hmm.
And then we move forward from that and build momentum that way.
Yeah. And it's a constant, I think where a lot of coaches struggle is like the feedback aspect from clients. It's like, a client could be like, hey man, I feel like this or this isn't working, I just, can we try something different? The coach is like, oh, you got to stick to it. It's like, sometimes like you need to listen to the client. Like, yeah, if you just apply to change and it's like, oh, I don't feel it, like, give it some time. But if it's been some time and the client's not seeing results, like, drop the ego and be like, okay, we need to try something completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. And collaborating with other people too, because I don't know everything. Not even close. Like, I pay, Austin, Stout, and other people to help me learn even a quarter of the things that they know. But I know I know very little, but I know people that know a lot. And if I don't know the answer to something, I'm not going to deprive my client of their health and well-being because I'm too stubborn to go ask someone who has likely more experience than me, has different clients, maybe they've had someone in a similar position, and if I can ask them a question and they're willing to answer, then we can help that person together. And that ultimately is what's going to move our industry forward, instead of just being like really hush hush about, oh, I do this on peak week, or I do this, I use this food or supplement or whatever. I don't even know what they use for those kinds of things, but just like working together, and then the athlete picks the human that they want to work with for their relationship. That's really what it should come down to.
Yeah.
And the relationship is what honestly drives progress.
Agreed. 100%. Yeah.
Like, if you build that communication, that connection, it actually psychologically allows them to kind of, all right, my coach is there to support me. He wants me to do all this stuff, and he's got my back 100%.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can adhere to that because all we're doing is just motivating people to become the best version of themselves. And that relationship that you have it's got a little blurry. That relationship we have with our clients is kind of what drives that. And a little bit about me and the way I approach my coaching, as we talked about, is it's actually very simple. It's ridiculously simple. I listen to my clients, listen to what is it that they want, what they enjoy, things they like to do, and then I implement all that into their specific program, and I just drive progression. But at the same time, I make sure they're able to communicate with them, create that relationship aspect, which will drive them to kind of progress where they need to go. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, our clients, all they simply want to do is just be heard and listened to. And the more that you listen to them, the more they're going to be like, oh, okay, wow, I finally have someone who actually has my back. And that's literally, I know it sounds like silly, but that is literally it.
Well, it sounds silly because social media wants to apply extreme nuances and extremities to one side, thinking that's what it takes. When it's like, you just like communicate and listen. Like they'll tell you like 7 habits of highly effective people. Like, you know, they talk about like communication. Anything in psychology talks about like the key in life is communication. Like the more you communicate, like my clients, they're like, man, that can be an expensive price. And I'm like, I have clients that will literally message me in the middle of the night. If I'm awake, I respond. I can be at the gym. My clients will send me videos and it's like, I respond like, hey, this form's messed up. You need to fix this and this. And it's simply a communication. One of my clients out in San Antonio that I see from time to time, first time I met him, stayed at his house, hung out with his kids. But I mean, I created this connection with someone, and that drives. And really, I think that makes like the results of coaching just compared to copy paste. I'll see you in 5 days. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious in that same train of thought, like, do you guys do any like personality testing with your clients at all? You know, like what are they, like Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, Big Five, any of those type things?
You know, it's funny. I've taken the Myers-Briggs multiple times within a day just to see how accurate it is. And based on the questions and like my mentality today, I've changed. I've went through like 4 different phases of Myers-Briggs within a day, and I'm like, it's for me, I'm the same person like Zodiacs. I'm like, it's kind of hard to like. To me, like I get them, like I get the idea of Myers-Briggs and all these the enneagrams, and it's like you can't apply like. I don't like these things in psychology because what it does is it takes the vastness of what a human is and smushes it to something. I'm like, that's so you can't, because like a person one day, depending on their mentality, their mood, or where they're at, could fit this part. The next day they might be over here, or they might be. So I'm just the personality for me is like I as someone changes, which humans are supposed to. That's what I'm like Myers-Briggs. I'm like, if you stitch just one part of your whole life, I'm like, have you really experienced life? Like, have you changed any? Have you grown? And I think that's where, for me, like with my clients, is I'm always assessing them along the way, like seeing where they're like, hey, how you feeling? What are you doing? And I mean, if someone might gain more confidence, or someone could went from like maybe an introvert, now they could be more extroverted. So I don't like applying a lot of those to people. I don't like being in a box. So I don't put anyone else into a box. So I say, hey man, be what you want to be. Just keep me up to date.
Yeah. So for me, I have no expectations of my clients. All I know is like I treat them as if they were friends of mine. And like I do weekly check-ins. I have roughly about 40 something clients. And when I mean weekly check-ins, I call every single one of my clients literally on a specific day, like Monday through Sunday or whatever that they're scheduled for. We sit down, we essentially talk about like what they did that previous week, how do they feel, any stress factors, how's everything going, talk about like their actual life situation that's currently happening. So I don't think I would need a personality test. It's more about being able to get that communication aspect of it and read in from there based on how everything is going from that week. And then gradually, as you do that week to week to week, you tend to gauge what their personalities kind of is like. So that from that point, you can kind of just basically see like it's like a friendship kind of thing in a sense. So it just makes it a lot easier to be able to kind of like plug things here and there, change things as you go, because you kind of get to know the person on a week to week basis based on those conversations, those phone calls that you're having with them. So that's kind of how I approach that.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. I think that's something that we actually differ on a little bit. I personally use the Big Five, and I'll use Enneagram. And the purpose of those, Enneagram kind of tells you like what people's motivations are, not necessarily like how they're going to act in certain ways or what they're going to do, but kind of like what drives them, what makes them want to do certain things. And you can see both like the really, really healthy aspects of those things and the really unhealthy aspects of those things. And it kind of makes me look for them in a way, when obviously like not boxing them in the way that you said, because everyone is very different, but when you're working with someone you've never met them before, you've never experienced them as a human, that one and the Big Five can be really helpful. If you guys are familiar with the Big Five at all.
I'm not. He might be.
You talking about the? God, it's been a long time.
I can just go over it really fast.
Yeah.
So there's five big personality traits, obviously. So there's agreeableness and neuroticism, extroversion, openness, and conscientiousness, and they all have little breakdowns of what those look like. And you can even see some of these traits like start to develop when you're a child, and you can potentially see the way that they formulate and snowball in either direction as someone grows up. So for example, and I'll use those things with my clients, if I have someone that's extremely neurotic, which is your sensitivity to negative emotion, and there's a lot of women like that, right? Just being super honest, we're very, very hard on ourselves, very, very critical. So if I have a client who is extremely neurotic, and this isn't me being rude, like this is a genuine thing.
It's science. It's just science.
It's just on. But yes.
Yeah. So if I have a client that's extremely neurotic, I don't need to, get on them for being too over on their protein. I don't need to, get on them for, you missed this lift and like life happened, now you're super stressed. Like for that person, they're already beating themselves up so hard. Like me doing any of that is going to have a more negative response. It's not going to foster trust. It's not going to progress the relationship. It's not going to help them progress in the gym at all. So for me, just kind of seeing that, and you can definitely see that in check-ins as well, time over time, but I like to have it like as soon as I start with somebody, because it kind of gives me, oh, like this is how you rate yourself. This is how you see yourself. These are the things that I'm going to look for in your check-ins. And it's really cool as you start to progress forward. You can see, if you kind of take a certain approach to the way that somebody is naturally and they don't want to be that way, and you can progress them, just like motivationally interviewing them into a certain direction, you can start to see those traits be more managed, be manageable in that way. So I definitely see what you guys are saying there too, but I think that there is definitely I've seen it work really, really well with my clients so far. So potentially something is there, but obviously everyone is individualized. So
it is funny you say that, because I've had like quite a few of my clients. One actually does pay me, and I've had multiple of my clients like ask me like, why don't you just move into life coaching? Because I don't go based off like personality traits. I just like, I watch how they are and like watch how they speak. And most of mine, it's usually I watch their patterns and I also like I reapply to it and just kind of find ways to like get them outside of their head. And I've had a multitude of my clients be like, it's not that one of them, how did he say it? He's like, why I like you as a coach is like, you're knowledgeable, but you don't know, because you'll tell like, he's like, you don't think you're a great coach. I'm like, yeah, I know some things, but I don't know shit. And then he's like, you're the biggest trait for me that I liked as a coach is like, you help me see me for who I am. So, and that comes from like, I have studied a lot of psychology when I was younger, and I kind of just moved away from it. And I started like watching people, and instead of like thinking about psychology in a box, like within a field, I started like applying what I knew at the time to people and just watching. So now if I catch someone within those traits, agreeableness, neuroticism, I'm like, okay. And then I'll start asking them, like, okay, where did this come from? And then usually get down to the root of it. And then I pull them, like, basically pull that root out, like, okay, well, let's fix this up and we'll get it going. So, yeah, I mean, I understand that. I've just never thought about maybe doing the test from the beginning. I just watch them to see if I can catch on to patterns.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I absolutely agree with what you just said. Something that I say, I think often is, like nobody got to be like 600 pounds because they're mentally healthy, because they're okay up there. Like nobody, like with like perfect body, even perfect people with perfect bodies, like they are not mentally usually like that the way that they would like to be. They're not enjoying life to the fullest. So, and you see a lot of those things come up in fitness, because it is a very intimate relationship that we have with these people. Like we're asking like, hey, how many times do you use the restroom per day? What's your cycle like? Like how are you feeling? Like all of these things that are very, like I don't want to talk to these people, to random people about this. If someone came up to me on the street and asked me my digestion, I'd tell them to go pound sand, right? So you have to have that comfortability with your clients, and they have to be able to open up to those mindset things that they probably don't want to talk about if they want this to be a lasting change for them.
Agreed. I think
it's our job.
I'm a super open guy, so people just like dump all their shit on me. But I'm the same guy. If someone were to ask me, like, shut up. If someone were, because I listen to your shit too. So But I know it's funny. You said like, if someone asked me my digestion on the street, I'd be like, I don't care. And it's funny. He's like, I remember I was taking some psychology classes when I was younger, and he says one of the things, if you look how people are nowadays, they don't look for certain response. Like walk down, like if you're walking between classes, and say, hey, how you doing? Oh, cool, you, and you walk off. And he's like, try doing this one day, and that's where it came to me. He's like, how you doing? Actually, and you just like, people aren't used to it. Like you respond to them like, whoa, I wasn't ready for that. So now I started doing that so often, like at the high level of vulnerability. Someone can come up to me like, hey man, like what about this? And I'm like, do you want the real answer, or you just want like, you want me to shoot the shit with you? And they're like, well, I want the real answer. I'm like, all right, here you go. And they're just like, whoa, I wasn't ready for that. I'm like, don't ask those questions. But that's me being who I am has allowed so many of my clients to just come up to me and be like, I feel so comfortable just talking to you. Like I'm like, well, it's an open space. Like I'm here. Let's listen. Like people want to be heard. So that's what I put out there.
I do have to admit, one of the methods that you mentioned, I think was like the 5 to 10 steps. For example, as you can tell, I am very bad with listening, so I have to like try extra hard to listen.
So true.
That's most people, honestly. Like most people have trouble listening, so you're not alone.
Yeah,
I listen very well. This Steve though.
Oh,
why are you putting the rice cakes there?
Selective listening. Okay, so I lost my train of thought.
The 5 steps.
The 5 steps.
The 5 traits.
Sorry. So with the 5, I honestly lost my train of thought.
I thought all the time, dude.
It'll come back.
This is what I live with.
Oh no. So my next question, I'll get to it, but my next question is essentially on the clients that you have. I'm assuming you have both male and female clients, right?
Yes.
How do you handle the male clients in terms of like, let's say, them essentially trying to like.
Carry on.
Yeah,
how do you handle the male clients?
I don't have many male clients, but the few that I do, actually, I have like a weird spectrum of male clients. Like I have one that is alpha male to the max, right? Like I asked him a question the other day. I was like, I was gonna give him a load bump for one of his movements, and I'm like, hey, how much do the dumbbells go up to in your gym? And he messaged me back, none of your fucking business. It was like,
no, wait. He's not alpha. He's an asshole.
He's sarcastic. He's got dry humor. I've learned to live with it. I told him, I'm like, hey, we need to manage your caffeine, and he's like, not gonna happen. It's like,
okay.
Okay, but like you hired me to do these things, so he just gives me a lot of pushback. He still does the things that I say, but I need to be a little harsher with him because he's obviously gonna give it back to me.
No, he definitely doesn't fit that agreeableness, does he?
No, he's on the low end. He's on the disagreeable side of things. Probably did not have a lot of fun in the sandbox growing up, but he's very successful. like a very successful human. Like we need those people, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if anything, it helps me be a better coach because working with a lot of women who usually are like, okay, like whatever you say, kind of thing. It's like, no, I want you to fight for your best interests. So it's refreshing almost to have someone with that perspective. And then I have another male client that's no ego. Like I don't know how to do a squat. I don't know how to do an RDL. I don't know what any of these things are. Like we started from ground zero. Like how much water are you drinking? I'm drinking 20 ounces a day. Okay, let's bump that up a little bit.
I'm working on it.
So it really is like case dependent, and honestly, like I don't see a huge difference in the way that I coach my men as opposed to how I coach my women. So that helped. That probably didn't help at all.
No, it did. I mean, you're always going to get feedbacks and like pushbacks from different clients, but it all depends on how you handle it. So I mean, the way it's going to be a little bit harder with males, for example, especially when you're a female coach. So they can kind of give like a little bit of a feedback, but then again, they're paying you, so they have but to do it in a sense. How do you handle the female clients? I'm sure they're either easier or harder. What's your situation with those?
So I find that a lot of the work that I do with my females is more emotional. So the guys, they'll message me and be like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what this is. Why is my blood glucose 118 today? Like just like asking blanket questions, like wants to know these things. And then with females, I'll open the check-in form and you just have a list. Like you're scrolling to the bottom and you can't find it in like the mental health section, and you're like, okay. So a lot of things came up this week, a lot of things to talk about. And I think for me, a lot of it is trying to teach. Actually, every woman on my roster is high in neuroticism. Every single one of them. Whenever I've had them, had them take the tests. So a lot of it is trying to pull them back. You have the extreme dieters, you have the people that are just more all of the time, and it's more just like more is not better, better is better. So let's go that route. So it's more just breaking those beliefs that they've been taught from as long as they've been in the space, and obviously going over those emotional things that show up, like your weight went up 1 pound and now you're crying on the bathroom floor and it's 3 a.m. and you're calling me. So something more is here. What do we need to dig up? Like, why is this? Like, I'm just going to keep asking you why until we get to the root and we can fix it, because no human wants to live that way.
No.
So I would say there's definitely more of an emotional side of things. And if you can get the emotions in check, and I'm not, bulletproof to this either. Like, I still have issues as with these kinds of things. Like, we're athletes, we want to be the best. That's absolutely, who we are. And there is a irrational emotional side to those things. So I think that sums it up nicely. It's more emotional based.
Agreed.
It totally does. And what I've noticed with particular clients, whether male or female, is that they don't have the answer, right? So they look up to us to be able to give them the answer. And the more that we're able to give them these answers, the more they're just, okay, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I should listen to my coach. And that's where I think we have a really big problem in terms of coaching in the fitness industry, is that a client would ask like their coach a question. Some would just be like, I don't know, figure it out or something like that. Or they would be like, don't ask me these questions. Whatever I say is what you have to do. And I don't like that certain coaches tend to do that a lot. And I think that's what gives coaching a little bit of a bad name.
Yep.
Because some coaches are just like, I'm the expert. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're doing. Listen to me. Whatever I say goes. And that's essentially it. So it's good to have those feedbacks where you can kind of just like bounce off ideas and essentially just be able to like plan things out based on like their wants, their needs, and their desire, rather than just be like, I'm the coach. Do what I tell.
And that's kind of funny to me too, the concept of, I know all of the things just to do what I say and this will work, because, that person has lived in their body for, 20, 30, 40, 80 years. Like, they have known themselves for a very long time. So why would you not take that person's, concepts and ideas, like, hey, like, I tried this one thing one time and it had a good effect. I enjoyed it a lot. Okay, great. Let's roll with that. Like, let's build on that. Like, I think coaching should definitely be something more collaborative. Like, you should absolutely take the feelings and thoughts of your person into consideration when you're trying to make changes. Obviously, if they're saying that they want to eat a box of Oreos and Taco Bell every single day, then we have to have a little bit of a compromise somewhere. But I don't see it ever as this is what I say, this is what we need to do. If someone's, hey, I don't like this movement, or this one, I like this machine better, and it's an easy swap, like, let's do that. I'm not tied to this movement. I'm not tied to this idea. Like, can we change this order? Okay, like, what is it? Okay, that makes sense to me. Let's do that too. So it's definitely allowing them to have the space to ask, like, hey, I think this would be better, and then letting them do that. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, okay, let's go back to what we were doing, or let's reassess.
Agreed. Not to be rude, I do like these podcasts to be a little bit like more like real life situation where it's not scripted or anything like that. But a good thing about this is that I do have Charles here. But
that's your name? I didn't know your name. I've never met you before.
Charles. Yeah, he's Charles. But this is actually perfect. This is perfect. You guys can introduce each other. I'm gonna get something to eat, and I'll be right back.
Are you getting that started right now, bro?
Yeah.
Go eat some food. Anyways, so we can carry on. It is funny, like, talking about the nuances of training, because like when Paul and I, thanks for turning on that light and making me look like a ghost. So whenever him and I first started training together, like, I come from, like, I was a powerlifter in high school, joined the military, then was like kind of did bodybuilding, then got out, did like more powerlifting. I never like competed. Like, I was just a dude who liked being really strong and then looked like I competed. I just like being an athlete. And then did powerlifting from like 2019 to the end of last year. And I dropped my last meet, like jumped into powerlifting, broke some state records, climbed the charts really fast. But I've always loved compound lifts. I love my squat. I love my bench. Love my deadlift. Always have. Just fucking love them. There's nothing crazier than like moving big weight. Moving to him, he hates squats. He's okay with bench, but he hates deadlift. So, you try to put us together and it's like, I just want to squat and deadlift because I get such a great response from them because I'm very technically proficient. Like I do more powerlifting coaching than bodybuilding, but even any bodybuilders, like, I'm very big on technique. That's where I think I excel as a coach. Like I can break down form mechanics extremely fast. Like I have a lot of top level athletes that'll send me their videos and I'm like, hey man, what's going on with this? And I'll just be like, all right, you're doing this and this. You're not maintaining lateral tension. You're not in enough rotation. Your form's breaking down here and there. You're not having enough thoracic extension. And I'm like, off the top of my head. So for me, like my big compound movements, like squats, I get the craziest like leg pumps from squats. He'll be on leg press and get crazy leg pumps. Me, not so much. And it's just, but he's spent years doing specific movements. So he has a great response to it, a great stimulus. And that's where I think like a lot of coaches struggle is apply movement to someone. How did the movement feel? How did you, and then if they struggle with the movement, I'm not feeling it right. I'm feeling here and there. Take a video, let me see. Okay. Oh, now I can see why you're not feeling this movement because you're, if it's squatting, the easiest one is like, oh man, okay, you're driving too fast with your quads out of the hole and your hips shooting up. That's why your lower back hurts. You're not using your glutes and hamstrings. Okay, you're getting your arch is collapsing because you're not maintaining lateral tension, which is why you're having the knee valgus and you're getting pain through here and here. You don't have the ankle mobility. You should probably be in heels, just so on and so forth. And I think a lot of coaches need to really understand like not even just biomechanics. It's not to be just mechanics. You need to understand like leverages, and that's literally it. Like from a mechanical standpoint, it doesn't have to be from like the body. Like if you understand lever systems, you can understand how the human anatomy like in the structure works. But I think that's where so many coaches do struggle is thinking like, okay, go do this. It works great. This is going to work, do this. And that person's like, I don't feel it. Like, well, just, it takes time. Like, no, dude, like that person they're not doing that movement properly for that. And this is something like he's trying to get me to do. And I struggle with it because he wants me to do like videos on technique. Like if you're trying to squat with quads, it's this. If you're trying to squat for hams and glutes, it's this. I'm like, but at the same time, it's hard to make those videos based off like how someone's femur length, their tib fib, like does their femur insert to their acetabulum more laterally or more from an anterior position? Like all of these matter based off someone's physique, like their structural and all this. So, but that's actually a different field. I'm trying to work with a guy who's opened a gym right here. And I said, I would love to get to a point where I can work for a gym and then just really take coaching to that step. Like I would love to work with someone that can do like MRIs and x-rays and actually like have someone go get this done and like see how the muscles, insert, how the belly structures fit, structural, like, okay, you have a more forward setting hip structure. This means you have to squat like this, you have to move like this, like you can't do that, you can't do this. And I think that's where, so it's cool like hearing how you talk about with they're doing all this research now. And that's like how I look at coaching is like when I'm looking at someone move, I'm like, okay, do this and this, let me assess you based on how you look from a structural standpoint and then make coaching based off that. But that is a different mentality, but definitely something I think a lot of coaches struggle with. They think like one movement works and that's not always the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that you touched on too is that you do a lot of training videos with your clients. And, I can't believe how many people don't do training videos, like, especially like I remember when I started coaching like 3 years ago, and I didn't do training videos back then. It was very like, okay, I have my Google form and I have check-ins on Gmail and that's what I do. I have like little Word documents that I send out with, what you're supposed to do this week. Obviously don't coach that way anymore, but I had this one client and I was like, okay, let me just like see your squats. Cause like something is not right here. And I saw the most ugly squat of my entire life. And I was like, oh, you've been doing this for 3 months like this? Oh, good Lord.
Do you remember what it looked like? Cause I'm curious now.
It was like, like the knees fully in.
Like
It was,
knee caving.
yeah, knee valgus, the whole, and then like she had it so high up on her neck too, and it
It was on her
it
C-spine.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just awful. Like everything I saw, I was like, I feel like such an idiot. How did I not ask for this earlier? And like there are still a lot of, I was like, I can't not do this. Like I need form videos. Like I need as many videos as you can send me because I have made a grave mistake here. And now something that I actually do, I got this from my coach actually. He has a group chat, and I also have a group chat with all of my clients, and they'll post a couple of training videos per week of what they've done in the gym, and then I'll go in and make form corrections for them there. And it's really helpful, especially because I have some people that have been with me for 4 months and some people that started a couple weeks ago. So you have people that are very proficient with movements now that we've been hammering away at for 4 months, and they'll post their videos. And now these beginners who have no idea what a hip hinge is, they can say, oh, I see this, I see the way that you're talking about this. And then my more advanced lifters can see the way that I talk to my beginners and be like, oh, I can watch that video and I know what's wrong. So this is more like teaching them life skills at this point that they can take with them forever. It's not just you can just go in and just do 4 sets of squats and 4 sets of deadlift and add one other like glute movement and some calves, and that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Like that's like, no, like now you understand movement, you understand how your body feels, you understand how to auto regulate, you understand, hey, like I'm supposed to keep tension here, this isn't working right. And those are things that you will always have with you, and I think that is really important, especially when we're talking philosophies on coaching, making sure that people can eventually not need me anymore. Like I should never have to get another video after a year with me on how to do these basic movements that you've been mastering for the past year. You should know how to set up your own nutrition. You should know if you need to do macros, if you need to do intuitive eating. You should know what your body needs by the end of it, because I should have done a good enough job teaching you how to do those things.
I 100% agree. Like when I get with someone, like, dude, I don't want to stay with someone a lot. Like, and that's why I tell someone, like, yes, my coaching costs this much. Ask questions, just please. Like, the more you ask, the more you get out of it. I had a client that he lives out in Austin, and I coached him for a couple months, like 6-7 months, and it was just online, but I knew him in person when I lived out there, and he traveled a lot for work and was always out on business. And he's like, hey man, I'm going out to eat. Like, here's the menu. And I say, okay, well, this is probably your best option. Like this and this would be your best option to eat. If you're going to eat, make sure like for this meal, remove this and this, like remove carbs here, maybe some fats here. That way you have more to play with based on like what you're eating. Like you're eating this, it has like, higher protein, has more fats, less carbs, and he learned how to literally just like, now he's like, dude, it's so easy to just maintain my physique year round. Like, because everything, I got so used to how you taught me. Like now it's just natural when I grab things. I'm like, okay, I need to move this and this around later. And I tell someone like, when you look at macros, it's not really like a day thing. You need to look at your week. Like if there's a day you're gonna be traveling a lot and you don't have time to like get in all your meals and you're basically gonna be pumping out protein shakes and like some snacks. If you have to limit your carbs a day and you're just running around, have some protein, fats, and the carbs. And I say carbs carry over the next day. Like if that next day you're gonna hit like maybe a massive leg day, you want extra carbs, go have some extra carbs. Like it's okay, because you're gonna have weight fluctuating throughout those days, but all that matters is from here to here. That's all that matters. So that's definitely a big thing that I think coaches. I think that's why coaches don't put out information, or like they want that client to just be a steady paycheck. Like they give them as minimal as possible because they know that person's gonna stay with them because they're doing all the work, versus like educating your clients. That's what a coach is. A coach is an educator. And that's why I think so many people, I don't see them as coaches, they're trainers. They're trainers, and they're people that just put out meal plans. Because there's a big difference between, like anyone can be a trainer. You can go to NASM certification and go in a gym and tell someone to go do body weight squats and then run them through machines of exercises. There's nothing really special about that. But coaching someone to be technically proficient and then getting them to be able to walk away and do it themselves is a big difference. And I think that's where that separates a good coach from a phenomenal coach, a great coach. Just having, once you get to a point where someone like, I have clients that have like done a cut with me and they're like, man, I'm good at like getting cut. That's easy. Next time I want to bulk, I'm going to come to you so I know how to do it. So I'm not just getting fat. or vice versa. Like, man, I bulked up with you, but I really want to get cut. So like, they'll get cut with me. Oh, that's easy. But it's just teaching them along the way on how to handle things themselves. Like, I don't want you to stay in my nest your whole life. Like, go fly. Like, please. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I enjoy the money. I got to pay bills, but that's never the intention, is to keep someone around.
Yeah, absolutely. If they want to stay, great. But they should not have to stay.
Yeah, I'm not
They
going to
should
say
not have
no. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I agree with that. But it's cool, like, hearing the idea going from the exercise science to biology. Like, what drove that? Like, at what point did you realize that exercise science was kind of like, meh, like, I need to know more now? What do you think was the point where, like, one day you were just like, I'm going to learn some more?
Yeah, so when I graduated from exercise science, I had all of these textbooks, I had all of these certifications, on paper I looked great. And then I would think about why what I learned, and then if I thought that was accurate. And I kept asking myself why, like, why would that be accurate? If I want to explain this to somebody because I want to be seen as a competent professional, if I can't go to the root of it and understand exactly why that is happening, then I don't understand it at all. So going back to biology, just basic energy systems from a biochemical standpoint, evolutionary biology, I love to play with that a lot. Obviously, like, even things like we're talking about now, like hormones and digestion and PEDs, blood viscosity, all of these things, I need to understand that, like, a lot if I want to work with, the monsters that I eventually want to work with. So that was really a big motivator for me, is like crap, like, I have the concepts that have been regurgitated for me from these, average textbooks, but I don't know how to think for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So getting to the root and understanding, what like Gibbs free energy is, I can go all the way down, all the way down. If someone asks me, like, why is this not going to work? We can break it down into all of those parts as much as that person wants to know. And that's how I prefer to know things, because, I'll even now, like, I'll think of things and try to trace it back, and I'm like, oh, this is where this stops. What am I missing? Just go down the trickle effect.
They'll rabbit hole.
Yeah. So you said that you were very, very curious, and I think that's something that I also exhibit. I want to know all of the things. If a client asks me a question and I don't know the answer, you can bet I'm going to find out. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to ask people. I'm going to go read. Yeah, exactly. So.
That's another big thing with coaches, is the idea, the curiosity, for one, like, why? When I was a kid, like, I remember when I was younger, like, why? I was the young kid that always asked why. And they eventually told me to stop asking why, because they didn't have answers, and it got annoying to them. Like, I remember when I was younger, my mom, like, everyone, even teachers, like, why? I'm like, I just want to know why.
Yeah.
And it's, here I am, 34, and it's like, I want to know why. I'm like, why? Google.
Yeah.
Why is this?
Yes.
So it is funny, but that is such a great trait for a coach, because there are so many coaches that are like, well, why is this? Well, that's just how it is. Or they don't have the answers, and it's like, a good coach is someone that can say, you know what, I don't have those answers. Let me get back to you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Like, drop your pride and say, hey, I don't know anything, because I'm sure I know you have the same mindset. The more you know, the more you realize you don't really know.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that I got into my head about a couple of years ago, when I was like, I'm not good enough to coach. Like, I see all these people talking about things that I have no idea. I had no idea they existed at all. And I'm like, I can't help people because I don't have enough knowledge now. But that's just going to be a never-ending thing. Like, I know way more than I knew 3 years ago, and I'm a much better equipped coach now. And I'm fully admittive of all of the mistakes that I've made, all of the things that I've done incorrectly, or things that I wish I could go back and change. So, now going into it with way more knowledge than I had 3 years ago, I still have that thought, but it's more exciting now. It's more exciting, like, oh, like, there's more to learn, instead of beating myself up that I don't know it all yet.
So you enjoy imposter syndrome, is what I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I was telling him about imposter syndrome, and he's like, what is that? And I was like, dude, it's terrible. It's like the worst.
It's awful. It's terrible. Yeah, my coach gets on me for that all the time. Yeah.
Well, what's funny is, like, living with him and having our coach David, I was always a person, because I was never, like, not really highly formally educated. It was just self-education throughout most of my life. And it's like, when you meet people with formal education, you feel like you don't know anything, because they use certain words. But like, I've, like, talked with people that are, like, formally educated in certain areas, and I'm like, they'll know something about that, but it's like, you totally forgot about all this other shit over here that's totally useful to people. Like, but it's because they get so stuck in like that mindset that they totally forget. Like, and that's why I'm so big on like not putting people in boxes, because the humans are so complex as it is. Like, you can apply something to them, and then you're like, and it might work with a bunch of clients. You know, run across someone, and you're like, why is this not working for this person? Then it's like someone's like, hey, have you thought about this? And you're like, light bulb, and you're like, oh my god. And you apply it, and it's like, boom, results, and you're like, because you were so stuck to a specific mindset. And then imposter syndrome really messes that, because you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, you know. So he's back.
Hello again. How was your food?
It was good.
That was good.
Drank orange juice, and then I had salad and chicken.
Did you waste your carbs with orange juice?
Yeah.
I heard that, and I was like, "Aren't you 7 weeks out? Like, you could not catch me dead with orange juice 7 weeks out."
This dude, he makes 0 cents. 0 cents. Like, we got on the idea of like, you know, I'm big on like recovery, sleep. I know people that get like, they'll sleep a lot, and I'm like, have you ever tracked your sleep? Do you know what your REM is like? Because in the day, like stages 1 and 2 mean nothing. You need REM. So I was getting like some really crappy REM towards the end of my prep, and like that's when I dropped, and I was like maybe 20 to 40 minutes and 8 hours of sleep, which is trash. Like, that's garbage. This dude gets 4 hours of sleep and gets 2 hours of REM. He's also the same guy. He'll like, man, I want to take a nap, and like I'll look over and it's like, what? It's like a light, just someone turn a switch on and he's just out.
Could fall asleep at a red light and then wake up when it turns green kind of person and be fully recharged.
Yes.
Or this is the type of guy that
we hate you.
Leaving the gym. I have a video on my highlights, and it's Sleepy Paul. Like, multiple times I caught him sleeping. We left the gym, and like I look back, and he's asleep, and he's like holding on in the back seat, just like passed out. I have videos of him in the passenger seat where he's like, I'm driving the road, and he's just like head bobbing between turns. And he wakes up and says, oh, my neck hurts. I'm like, because you were.
Gee,
like,
I wonder. A mini rave concert in the back, just.
Yeah, he just put a neck brace on when we drive anywhere, so he can just sleep like this.
A cone.
Oh, don't drink orange juice. Put a cone on him.
Yeah. He's like, I'm gonna leave. You guys keep making fun of me.
Too, don't you?
What's that?
So you're just gonna leave because we keep making fun of you. Like, I'm gonna go back over there.
I literally make fun of him like all.
That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
But so I was gonna ask about your competitions. And
Okay.
Prep wise and stuff like that. How many shows have you done?
I've done two shows. So my first one was 2018. I was 18. I was very, very small. I was 120 on stage, and I won my classes, and I say that with quotes because I won because I was the best person that showed up, not because I was worthy of a first place trophy.
I can admit that. Most people are like, oh my God, I'm first place, now I'm a coach. It's like, no one else showed up to the show. Like, why are you coach all of a sudden?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Definitely was not in shape, and I mean, you know, not for lack of trying. I got down to 30 carbs and 85 minutes of cardio a day, so it was for sure brutal. And then I took 2.5, almost 3 years off. I was going to compete in last year, but then COVID happened 2 weeks before my show, so I had to drop prep, and I was already still small. Like, I'm a very, very small competitor. So it wasn't really worth it for me to just, you know, hold and try to reverse out and then prep again. Like, it wasn't going to be the result that we wanted anyway. So got out of prep. And then this year I competed in the Clash and I placed 4th. Not happy with that. Obviously, we were going to try for nationals, and obviously, like, 4th is nationally qualified this year, but I'm not accepting that. I'm not stepping on a stage with a 4th place, not win. That's just not what I'm about. So now we're back to the drawing board. Hopefully another couple of years after I graduate, then I'll try to compete again.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
I like the mentality.
Yeah, that's a big ass mentality for a 21-year-old. That's I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna do a bunch of shows. I'm like, why? What are you doing?
Yeah, and this is probably the part where like I'll lose some people, but something I've noticed is that when it comes to bikini in general, there are girls who get into bodybuilding because they like bikini, and then there are people who get into bikini because they like bodybuilding, and they are different types of people. So
Agreed. 100%.
I mean, I don't think that's something you should say you're going to lose people over, because ultimately at the end of the day, like, you should always just be honest and say what you want, whether you're going to lose someone or gain people. Because if you lose someone else is going to be like, you know what? She's got a point.
And I know this. I'm
Yeah.
a person.
And that's the one thing I think we all face when it comes to like social media and bodybuilding. We like to create this perfect image of like the perfect physique, the perfect lifestyle, and all that stuff. But like at the end of the day, it's just like we're just doing it for like the audience. We're a show. We're like just putting it on a show. Nobody's ever like open and honest anymore. But
I mean, I'm pretty honest. I'm like the asshole on social media of honesty.
that works too. But
it's hard when you like you don't want to be the person that's called out, like I feel like if I woke up one day and Lane Norton was like, Alexa's wrong about everything, I would be like, oh fuck, like this is not gonna go well for me. So nobody wants like I definitely don't want I guess like backlash on social media, like the disagreements, people being like, I don't agree with you and I think that you're a horrible person because you have this one idea. And it's like, I could argue that I also am wrong in a certain population. Like I can have an argument and I can also argue the other half. So, like I partially agree with you, but yeah, I definitely see what you say there. It's definitely something that I need to work on for me, just trying to not care about what people think. But
that's like the hardest thing.
It's not easy.
that's having humility, and it's funny because I've spoke about this subject a lot. Is like the difference between like confidence and like cocky people is like the subject of humility. Like if someone says, hey, I think you're a shitty coach, and you're like, well fuck you, like that you feel like you're being attacked. And if it's like you're a shitty coach, you're like, well why?
Yeah, exactly. But curiosity comes back.
Yeah, if you take that and you're like, okay, well you're right, I've been that, but I'm working on it. Like, oh well shit, okay, well then they just shut up. They just they have no, they didn't get a rile out of you, so you're good to go. But yeah, humility is the idea that I'm 34. Like people have been attacking me since I was a fucking kid about anything, so it's like even to this point, this day, like I felt back some, and I was telling Paul recently, like I realized why I've held back a lot on certain points throughout my life, because just when you exist outside of like the box and you do things that people aren't like familiar with, like I'll do my handstands or I'll post like bodybuilding or powerlifting or this and that. And when you want to be this person, like people are always going to attack you. Like anytime I do handstands or something, it's like, oh, you showing off. I'm like, why is it whenever I'm doing things that I enjoy doing, it's showing off? And just the other day, I like took a side video of me doing SSB squats to do my bar pathing, like my tracking app. And from the side view, it's like me and Silkies, and you can see, my junk pushing out because that's just every guy has a penis, And I didn't want to post it, and Paul's like, why not? And I'm like, fuck, I caught myself in that mentality, like I didn't want to post it because anytime I posted something, someone's like, oh, is that your dick? And I'm like, yeah, dude, like look at a girl, like, oh, are those your tits? Well, yeah, like these, they're here for a reason. Like this is my ass. And I think a lot of people are in that mindset, even me, where you don't want to post something because you're like, oh, do I want to hear that feedback? Like, am I going to be judged on this? But I don't know. I look at the end of the day and like post it. Someone like there's always going to be someone to have something to say at the end of the day.
And ultimately, how I look at it is like, no matter who you are, no matter how successful you are, how poor you are, how rich you are, whatever the hell you have, at the end of the day, there's always going to be people that are going to like you. There's always going to be people that's going to hate you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really appeal to both. You just do what you like, and that's fun for you.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at it.
And she froze.
I think she froze.
Oh, no,
she didn't freeze. Oh, she unfroze.
Oh, you're back.
Oh, is she being really still or did she freeze?
Yeah. If I stay still enough, they won't see me.
Like T-Rex?
Yes. No, I completely agree. You have to give people, permission to hate you if you want them to love you at the same time. So definitely all things I absolutely relate to. And like you said, it's not easy to do, for sure.
100%.
How do we start that?
How do you
bikini
spell what?
competitors. That train of thought, I was like, what we were talking about before we were talking about that, and talking
Yeah,
about
this is
bikini
why Paul doesn't
competitors.
let me like take over sometimes because like I'm a rabbit hole tangent type guy,
Yeah.
and Paul likes to keep things trackable, and I'm not a trackable person.
Fair enough.
But
You guys
basically,
are polar opposites, it seems.
it was like, yeah, exactly. That's literally it. It was like you were competing in bikini, and you did some few shows. I was actually gonna follow that up with a question with like, do you have girls that are prepped in, girls or guys that are prepped for competitions?
I
3,
Two, one.
1. No,
Nope. I think we lost her.
no, up. I saw a movement.
have a couple people who will.
You're good.
You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good.
Great. Yes, I have a couple people who will eventually get on stage. They probably need my female probably needs another like 8 to 12 months. She had one of those coaches that we were talking about. Actually, this is a fun story. I'll start with that. When she applied with me,
Sorry,
Jesus,
I'm just saying
yeah.
hormones because usually most
but-
females, when they have coaches like that, they end up having like all jacked up hormones, and then it leaves up to you to fix it.
that's where we're at right now. So yeah, when she started with me, I asked her, you know, like, what have you been eating? Like she had a competition in December, and she hired me in April, and her check-in form was like, oh, I'm eating 7 grams of carbs, all from cucumbers, and I've been eating that for 8 months. And all of my fats, which are only 20, which have come from MCT oil, and then I eat nothing but packaged chicken and tuna. And then I was like, okay, that's not great. What supplements are you taking? She's like, oh, I'm taking, you know, like Fedra Cut 2 times the serving twice a day, and cayenne powder times 2 or 3 of the servings, a liter of skinny tea. I can't even make this up. The list went so long. And she was like, and I want to prep in September. I was like, oh, that's not what's happening at all.
How did you nutrition
And,
that?
you know,
That's fucked up.
yeah, and her training was literally 100 reps of every exercise for like 5 exercises, you know, each at like 5 sets.
There it goes. That volume, that
And the
toning,
hit
right?
cardio. Yeah. And then the hit cardio, you know, 5 days a week, which if you can recover from 5 days of hit cardio on 7 grams of carbs for that long, like I don't even know what your physiology is. So, you know, and she's like, I want to prep I want to compete in September. And I'm like, nope. I was like, I don't even know what you want me to do with this. Like, I had a moment and I was like, I don't know if I can help this person. And you know, now we're 4 months down the road. She just got bloods taken, so we'll see how she's doing that way. But you know, she's eating food now. She's actually eating now, which is great. You know, training is going up in the gym. Everything is on track. There's definitely some things hormonally that we need to still work through. So, you know, obviously need to get the health back and then build more muscle on top of it because she's still too small. And then we'll prep when she's ready. So, you know, I explained all of that to her. Like, it's not going to be a short road. Like, this is going to be a very long process. And not because I want you to stay with me for a long time, but because this is genuinely what you need. And you have to trust that I'm not going to put you on stage to get last place. Like, that doesn't help either of us at all.
Yeah, this is also one of the reasons why I even like started this whole coaching podcast thingy, because I'm seeing an influx of people who just are horrible at programming, horrible at nutrition, horrible at everything. Yeah, I'm calling these guys out. Screw it. Like, these people are just horrible at everything they do when it comes to coaching, and it's putting people's health in danger. And they don't really get any like accountability for it. It's just like, oh, we're gonna do this, and then that's pretty much it. And you can just go fend for yourself. Usually, just find another coach who can fix it. But then, like, now they're going through like so many different coaches to be able to not even like fix their problem, but just keep them doing the exact same thing. Okay, we just need to eat less food. We need you to eat this much raw food. And so there's like never like a general fix for it. And I think it's because one of these. This is just the reason why like most females, particularly in the industry, are so jacked up when it comes to their hormonal responses, because you have all these different coaches literally kind of screwing them up and not having a clue of what to do or how to approach that type of coaching for either a female or a male based on what it is that they're looking for. And honestly, I feel like it needs to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like not for nothing, like what those coaches do, quote unquote, works, right? Like if you slash someone's carbs to 7 a day,
Yeah.
they're gonna lose weight. But it's not necessary, you know, like it's like coaching, especially for prep clients, a lot of the time is, you know, doing it in a methodically lazy way. Like if we can get the most out of the least, like that is what I want for you, especially if we have numerous shows planned, and lots of, you know, like big things to come this year. You can't just start there, because then where do you go? You can't.
Mhm.
So like they have, you know, like they can be successful with those because they will technically have their clients lose weight, and technically they can show up kind of almost in stage condition, but at what cost? You know, if you
Yeah.
didn't have to, then why did you? Why would you? It's just not caring about the person. It's caring about the clout, and, you know, oh, I put this many people on stage, I have this many pros. It's me. It's the ego. It's the wanting to be a certain person instead of like, these are my athletes, this is what they have done, and I played a very small role in that. Like I did not do one session for them, I did not eat one meal, I didn't stay up late because I was hungry. Like it's not about me, it is 100% they did all of the work, and I, you know, I try to match their work with what I can do, but it doesn't mean that I can take responsibility for this at all.
That's so funny, because that literally goes to, I had a video the other day about someone, because I see all these coaches, like the one thing I can't get behind in like fitness and like even power, like bodybuilding and powerlifting, is like the team. It's not a fucking team sport, dude. It's not about you. It's not about your, shut the fuck. It's about your clients. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like taking photos with my clients at their meets. I don't, because it's their meet. If they want to grab a photo with me afterwards, cool. I usually don't post it because it's not about me. Like, my page is about me. Like if my clients post it, then I'll reshare it because I'm sharing them. Like I don't like, I've had a few of my clients, team, because my last name's Vogel, but on social media it's Swogel because it's a fucking play on words. But it's like, team Swogel. I'm like, no, you're not gonna get t-shirts. Like I'm not gonna be team Swogel. Like it's about y'all. I just gave you a guy. Like, and we literally had this conversation today. It's like, if you go to IKEA and you don't have like the manual, like good luck putting that shit together. I just say, hey man, go put it together. And that's all I do. You do all the work. It's about you. It's not about me. But I know so many coaches, because there's one here in Houston that got a lot of shit recently. And he's that team, whatever his fucking name is. I'm not gonna name drop it. But he's I got so many pros and all these awards and all this. I'm like, yeah, but I also know a slew of women who you've screwed up hormonally, mentally, and other things that you are now in trouble for. And it's like, but you see that all the time. And it's just those coaches, like, and honestly, you can look at their social media and tell right away that they're that type of coach. Like the way they present themselves on social media, in my opinion, is very sleazy. And it's like, it's more business than it is like education. It's more like, oh, look at me and my clients hanging out. It's like, you look like a promoter, and it's just really weird. Like, and I think that's where a lot of people need to understand. Like when you look at coaches online, like, yeah, maybe they have a lot of winners, like they have a lot of winning with like clients. Do you know these clients? Like, do these clients like repeat wins? Like, okay, cool, you have a client that has like 4 NPC like wins. Are they a pro? Why are they not a pro? Like, you have a bunch of clients who are pros. Where the hell are they? Oh, they stopped competing. Why did they stop competing?
Just one last question that I have. Based on what we're talking about, like different coaches, different approaches towards like people and the dangers, have you ever like just sat down once or maybe quite a few times and figured out like, how can I make this better?
Yeah, absolutely. That's honestly like been the past 5 months of me getting back into coaching. Obviously, like I'm not by any means saying that I am the answer to any of the things going on in the space. But if there is anything that I can do to help, to, put out better information, to help the clients that I do have, and, make an impact in their lives, and then they can go off and help other people with the knowledge that they now have. For me, I don't know if I'm going to coach forever. I'm in this program right now. I'm doing research with the research team, and if I end up liking that, and I see that that is impacting the industry in a positive way, then I could see myself going on to get my PhD and pursuing more research like that if that's what's going to help the industry. So I'm in this kind of like limbo phase of, I just want to help in any way that people or the industry or whatever our space needs in this moment. So I've honestly thought about that a lot, and I don't really know which way I want to do that quite yet. But I just know that this is a very, very large part of my life. Like, bodybuilding has given so much to me. It is the least I can do to try and help in any capacity. So that was kind of a roundabout answer of, I don't really know, but I'll figure it out eventually.
No, that's pretty much what I was looking for. At least you're thinking of a way to do it and fix it your way, which is basically controlling what you can control, because we can't really control the entire industry as a whole. But what we can do is just make little changes here and there within ourselves, our clients. Then whatever changes that we do make within our clients, they're going to be able to change that exactly with other people that they tend to have. So it's more like a domino effect kind of thing. So it's like,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
clients you have and you teach them these certain values, you coach them the right way, then eventually it does tend to create a domino effect that tends to override other particular coaches and how they approach certain things. So that's good.
Yeah.
The answer I was kind of looking for.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I want to do as well. That's why I'm having this little podcast here, have like different coaches, and then try to have them come in and then try to see what other little changes we can make. And my goal is essentially to be able to get more top tier coaches. I don't really care for their ranks or whatever, but as long as I can find some good coaches out there who give good information, provide the help, and they genuinely just care about people rather than just looking at people as like, in terms of like, hey, I need money, I need to promote this, I need to do this and stuff like that because I need this certain amount of followers, I need a certain amount of attention. We want to have a space where people just genuinely care about helping, because at the end of the day, we all started this simply because we were in certain dark places. For some people, we needed an escape. We needed something to be able to get us from like where we started off from, whether it could be like a bad situation, it could be a good one, but something to essentially just make us be better. And
Yeah, absolutely.
what, as a coach, is what we essentially need to do with our clients is just try to get them to improve to the best version of themselves, and then have them eventually just apply that exact same thing to other people, and it eventually just becomes a domino effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I thought of when you were saying that too is, like, if you like having these conversations and you like listening to people, like, the podcast is a brilliant idea for you. And that's definitely a way that you're going to help the industry move forward. And like, I really appreciate it. I look forward to hearing what the other coaches have to say too. And you said that you're not very big into academia, but obviously you have very successful clients, and you've done a lot for the industry as well. And for those people, I'm sure that you've changed their lives. And then there's me, like, I'm good at school. Like, that's what I am good at. So we're all very different, but we have a common passion. That doesn't mean we have to do the exact same thing to help move the industry forward. Like, there are so many different ways. Like, even if you're good at like being a lawyer, like, you can figure out how to sue these fucking people.
Wait. I'll create a GoFundMe to pay the lawyer, and I'll just go around beating the shit out of these coaches.
Love that for you. Let me know how that goes. Gets a call at 3 a.m. Hey, I'm in jail.
Yeah, it's like, hey, can you get me out of here?
You're a good enough lawyer and have a GoFundMe. I'm sure like there's some people that probably would put in these GoFundMe. So there's some coaches out there that people really just aren't big fans of. But it is funny when you ask the idea like the view, and I think what people understand is like the good coaches have the mindset, it's not about me, it's about we. Yeah. And that's the community. And like, I know Paul and I had this conversation, was it last year before you moved down? Yeah. We were talking about like what we really wanted to do is just create a community of coaches. Like, we want it to be honest and real. Leg cramps, hamstrings, yeah. We just wanted to be just honest and real. It's like create a community of respectable coaches, like just in like no bullshit, just out there, and anyone can be like, oh hey, watch a podcast, like, man, I really like that coach. That fits me, that fits my narrative. There you go, like, just follow along.
just go to that coach if that's what you
Yeah,
like.
absolutely.
That's also what this is for as well. Like if you ever have a client and or they want to interested in more about you and like what you do and how your personality is as a person, they could just always like look at this and just be like, oh wow, she's really like that and stuff like that, instead of just being like, okay, it's some random coach on the internet. I don't know who you are, I don't know what you do, I don't know anything about you, but you get good results to other clients, so let's do it. And then sometimes that just doesn't work out as well.
Yeah.
So
Well, in that same thought, like again, I'm not you, you are not me. We have different personalities. We go about things differently, and that's not a good or a bad thing. But for a certain client, like if someone comes to me, maybe my personality is not for them, but yours is. Like the way that you go about things, the way that you explain things, you end up helping that person. Like that is no knock on me as a coach. That's I wasn't the right fit for that person, and that's okay. Like we talked about earlier, like you do not have to. Everyone's not going to like you. So having that, and having good people on with the best of intentions for their clients and for our space, you will have people kind of fitting into the puzzle pieces of where they're supposed to go, and that's what's most important.
Exactly.
That's what's going to help people long term.
awesome. Perfect.
Agreed.
Where can people find you if they ever need to look for you for coaching or like your information, things that you post and stuff like that?
So I just have Instagram. It's just Alexa Rukstela is my full name, and that is all I have. No fancy website, nothing like that.
There you go. Yeah, so thank you for coming and thank you for actually taking the time to being able to talk to a bunch of random strangers.
Yeah,
about
absolutely. It was nice meeting
stuff
you.
like that. So we greatly appreciate it.
Yes.
And again, thank you a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye, guys.